Man of God, let's talk about life. Not only what it is, but how do we improve it? Because I'm sure all of us have experienced times where we're like, yo, life is lifing right now and it may not be going too well. But sometimes we don't always know what to do to fix it. And sometimes we do a lot of tweaking and changing and things and even improving certain things that feel like they're in our life, but the experience of life doesn't get better, right? Maybe you get a new location, a new woman, new job, new whatever. And not to say that there's no benefits from it or that you don't enjoy it, you don't like it, but you can still sometimes feel like, man, there's more to life or that life just isn't enough in the moment. That's what I want to talk about today. And my experience with this was actually the first thing that ever had me suicidal. Like growing up, I'm not gonna lie, man. I was one of those dirt bags that didn't really understand people that were suicidal. I'm like, bro, you just want to quit? Well, you're a quitter. Like, and there was just no empathy because I had never experienced it. And I thought it was more of just someone being weak, right? Boy, until this hit me and I was suicidal, I'm going to connect that eye because it's driving me a little crazy. But this hit me in a place where I was probably my most powerful I had ever been in my life at that point, right? And so it kind of threw things off for me. Like, in terms of all the dimensions, like at that point, I had never felt closer to God. Was I? That's very debatable. I think I had a lot of cookie cutter Christianity going on, if we're being real. But I felt like it, right? I was convinced. I felt really close to God. I My relationships were thriving. At that time, I think we had 3 kids. At that time, biggest house we had ever been in, most money I had ever made up to that point. There was times I would go out like I've never been like famous and never considered myself that. But your boy had clout. I wasn't Bieber where people would fall out on the streets, but like I would go places, especially within my industry, and people would know me. People would respect me. People would sometimes be shaking when they saw me. So I had a lot of the things. Me and my wife, I love my wife, beautiful, sexy, freaky, had amazing kids. And so like all the check boxes and dimensions in life were checked for me. I love my wife. She's freaky, got amazing kids, money, status, all that I could ask for. But I was like, bro, something is still missing. Like, I just, it was like, it was almost like saddening that I thought I had achieved all the things I had been sold by culture. And there was still like a discontent in myself and still this desire for more. And I realized that you can never feed that externally. That's actually meant to be turned inside. And so I'm actually grateful for that moment because it led to a lot of the breakthroughs I've had and all the amazing coaching we've been able to do over the years. But that was a painful, scary moment for your boy. And I don't want any of y'all to experience that. So, with that being said, a little bit of my intro, let's talk about what I mean by life. Because I think there's a lot of things that we definitely experience, okay? And I'm okay if you call them part of your life, but I want you to understand this acronym because I think they're more accessories to what really is your life. And your life is actually very simple. And I'll just shut up and just get into that. All right. So here's our acronym. Life, very convenient. Now it makes sense that we actually start with what I really think life is. Like if I could just summarize it to what it is, and even what Jesus is talking about when he says he comes to give you life and life more abundantly, it's the light. It's this inner awareness that you have. It's not your body, it is not your mind, which is why when loved ones die and we can still see their body, we don't think they are there still. Their light has gone, right? That inner spirit, whatever you want to call it. Now, I like the word light because at the end of the day, what else is it except consciousness or awareness? It's the light that shines. Like, you aren't your name, you aren't your body, you aren't your occupation, you aren't your sexual orientation, your marital status, your skin tone, your hairstyle, right? These are things that you have, things that you've collected over times, labels you identify with, but they aren't you. And when we strip all of that, it's like, what's left? What is left but that consciousness. Now, I need to do maybe a video on level of being, but we talked about it in a lot of different places, you know, a lot of the videos up to this point. But essentially, I love this analogy of like a light, because let's just say, let's move this down so you can see it, right? This is you. We want your light shining as broad and as wide as possible. But I'm sure you can experience times where, oh, I almost ended this real quick. I'm sure you can think of times where your light wasn't shining very bright. It was very narrow and dimmed. And this is usually in times of like survival, low levels of being, times of fear, shame, guilt. And those times where you were shining the most, shining bright, are those times of love, joy, peace, happiness, right? And you can have two completely different experiences. One could feel like heaven, one could feel like hell, basically just by how your light is shining on a situation. And that's some of the details we're going to get into as we break this down. So let's do that actually. Let me erase this. If I can get my hotkey to work. So this is what I mean when I say life. It's going to make so much more sense as we flesh this out though. Oh, when I say life, I'm talking about your light, that perspective, that view that you have on everything else that we're about to talk about that you think is life. Now, we have the ingredients. That looks like I spelled that right, didn't I? That is a G, ugly G. Now you have the ingredients of life. These are like, also you can maybe think of like the cards you were dealt. So this is your family, to an extent, especially growing up, like your friends, the things around you, okay? Your nationality, your skin tone, your height, kind of weight, not so much, depends on what ingredients you putting into you. But there's just a lot of, it's like the cards you were dealt. You get that. Now, so often we confuse the ingredients for the meal. But that is not the case. And sometimes we like to define our life by our ingredients and how life is going just based off the cards that we were dealt. And you got to think the audience that Jesus is talking about giving life more abundantly to wasn't some people at a community college that could just go start a side hustle, change their income status, right? Like they were pretty much born and died into a certain class. And so like when you hear life more abundantly, sometimes you think things getting just better in terms of ingredients, and that's not the case. And what we all know, a good chef can work with some lesser ingredients, but a poor chef, right, could even have the best of ingredients and find ways to mess it up. And so please stop defining the ingredients of your life as your entire life. They're just things for you to cook with. Next, we have the forces of life. These are the things outside of your control, the things that happen to you and through you and around you, things that affect you for good and bad. And a lot of people will define their life based off of the forces that are happening to them, right? Maybe they're on the side of the election that lost, and they're like, oh, life is bad because of these things happening to you. Or maybe you lose a loved one, or you lose a job, or the economy, government shut down, whatever it may be. These forces happen, and because of those forces, you think life's good or bad. Now, let's be real, though. We know people that have been dealt cards that maybe aren't ideal, right? Not the best of ingredients, but enjoy their life. And we also know people that have had really bad things happen to them. One of the craziest ones is that I believe it's Viktor Frankl, Man's Pursuit of Meaning. I want to know that book. Hold on. Just for some of y'all might want to read it. There it is. Man's Search for Meaning. What was it? Hold on, stick with me now. Viktor Frankl's, Man's Search for Meaning. Bro, that book could change your life. This is a man who found some pretty positive perspectives on being a Holocaust survivor. and developed a whole practice out of it. Okay. So when we talk about one of the most aggressive and life changing, painful forces that could happen to you, do you know what I mean? So when we can find people that can find happiness, peace, progression through some of the bad things, and I'm air quoting, that can happen in life through the different forces, because some of the things that happen to us are impersonal. Gravity could break your leg. It didn't have nothing against you. You know, they're just forces. And even the things that people do as they're trying to attack us, they can feel very personal, but even those are rooted in just forces that they may not even be able to control within themselves. And so we don't need to take them personal, and they definitely don't need to define our life experience. And then lastly, we have the expressions of life. And this is, for the most part, what we cook up with the ingredients and the forces and the level of light that we have at the moment. And it could be, again, what is the take light plus ingredients plus forces equals expressions, right? But often we think this is life. This is not your life. You could have, because you are maybe mismanaging ingredients and doing poorly with forces acting on you, you could have bad relationships, could have bad low bank accounts, could have maybe disease in your body, mental, physical, all of this, but still, this is not your life. And we can find people with very painful or poor expressions, low money, low health, low whatever, and yet they're at peace. They're happy. They have joy. And why is that always? It's not, again, it's not because of these last three. It's because their light, their level of being, their perspective on this, and their ability to move from lower places of consciousness where you're stuck in survival, always thinking about yourself, how things are going to impact you. And I did a whole, I'm not going to reteach something, but I did a whole video on power and identity and how we can have these lower levels of identity into our more animalistic nature where all we care about is survival and recreation, right? Sex and survival. But you are a complex being. You are divinity wrapped in a meat suit. And so there is a divine nature for you that is beyond time and space that can see things from a different perspective. And that is all Jesus is talking about. That's the kingdom on the inside. Because when you have that, you can look out to whatever ingredients, whatever forces, whatever expressions that you currently have and see the beauty in it. Find gratitude, find appreciation, and learn to cook a little better. Learn to work with the forces a little bit better, and then get different expressions, aka different circumstances. But this changes the game because you're doing it from a place of life being okay. And then when life is okay, you cook with the ingredients, navigate the forces, and watch how your expressions change. But when you're moving from a place of scarcity and need and survival, your whole view on everything else is foggy, and it limits what you see and what you're able to create. So that's why when we're trying to improve our life, sometimes we're playing a losing game because we're trying to find a way to get some new ingredients. We're trying to find a way to master forces that we can't control, and we're setting up boundaries and moving and doing all these things. And then, of course, no wonder from that perspective of scarcity, the expressions aren't well. But then even when we see those, we take those as the greatest reality, the outer world that we see. Go watch my video on the two worlds. Think about it. You have the things that you, so this is you, and you have the things that you experience outside of you. But remember, you're happy, you're sad, you're heaven, you're hell, you're whatever you're feeling on your actual like life experience. This happens on the inside of you. It's not an outer thing. Like there's no stress chemical in the world. There's no fear chemical, right? That's like you touch and you're like, I'm afraid. No, that fear is in you. The confidence, the peace, the joy, all of that. Remember, it's inside of you. And so if you get confused thinking that the expressions are realer than the inner experience, you've missed it. This is why in Ecclesiastes, Solomon calls everything under the sun meaningless. And you're like, wait, meaningless? Essentially, he's just saying this is a game that we put back in the box. Okay? We all know we die at the end, and the point isn't this game. Anytime you play any game, whether it's football or a board game, a video game, you don't play it for the game itself. You play it for how the game makes you feel when you're outside of the game. Okay? And it's so important to understand that even with your entire life, like your life is a game and you will soon leave it. Like the light in you will leave. Your expressions, the forces, the ingredients will stay here. And so as you're going to improve your life, please do your best to raise your level of consciousness and your awareness towards what you have in your life, for the good and the bad, and then just move appropriately. And you notice when you move from this perspective, things don't have to change in your outer world for life to get better and for it to improve. But here's the crazy thing that happens. When you improve from the inside out, you can't help but have a better expression of life. And so you can see how from the positive and the negative, this is one big feedback loop that feeds into itself. Okay? The better and brighter your light shines and the higher your consciousness is, the more ingredients you see, the better you see them, the better you deal with the forces, the better expressions you get, and that reinforces everything, and it keeps going. And on the reverse, some of you are in a negative cycle because you're stuck in such this negative, selfish, low consciousness view of your reality. And so as you understand that, as we move into homework, honestly, it's simple. Link in the description. Okay? If you take this stuff serious, you resonated with this, and you really want a gamified system designed not to tell you how to think, but show you how to think and navigate this infinite game of life and really start improving life on an inner level, link in the description. Now, the lazy or the secondhand homework for you would be to just do an audit. Do an audit. So take time to actually write out, okay, I think you should start with a vision or a what I would call a North Star, like a life that you would love to live one day. Okay. And then from there, I want you to rate yourself through this framework. Like, okay, what is the level of consciousness I'm bringing towards this vision? Am I moving with a level of peace? Am I having fun in it? Or am I moving from like a low level of lack, scarcity? And then list the ingredients you have to cook towards that vision. Okay, the cards that you were dealt, places and people around you, mental, physical ingredients, okay? And then think through the forces working with, against you. These are, of course, the people, the businesses around you, the trends, whatever it may be. Could be actual physical forces. Again, I don't know what this vision is that you have, like forces of nature. And then take a good inventory of like your current expressions and reverse engineer how you got there, and notice the stinking thinking and the poor mindsets that might have led to some of those things and got you those expressions. And the goal is for you to see the control that you have, not necessarily in like the forces and controlling things outside of you, but controlling your inner light, allowing that to shine brighter and noticing how that changes the expressions in your life. And so again, to summarize, I think life and the way to have it more abundantly is all an inner game. It's the light. I just keep recircling this stuff. But it is not your ingredients, forces, or expressions. All of those are very real pieces that you have to navigate on a day-to-day. And one of the biggest challenges you could probably give yourself is just to think, like, try to improve your situation and your view on it without changing anything. Without a breakup, without moving, without needing more money. Try to find the highest, best, most grateful perspective on your current situation. As ironic and backhanded of an unorthodox approach to your situation, I promise you, that's actually the best and fastest way to actually change what you see in your circumstances. And that's walking by faith, not sight. Okay. I hope that made sense. If you have any questions, drop those down below. Again, check that link in the description. And I love you guys. Till next time, God first, God bless.